health services, educational services, and economic empowerment.
Welcome back again. We're still joined in with our guest, engineer Samir Riyad, economic expert. Thank you once again for coming in, sir. And let's take a look let's start by taking a look at the report and the project itself. And what does this indicate? I know it's a project that aims at 4,500 villages for 3 years. The first phase is around 1,500 at a cost of 500 billion Egyptian pounds. What does that indicate from an economic perspective?
This is a very positive move, and we believe that we left this issue since a very long time, and the villages has been increased in their population in the last 50 or 100 years, and definitely we can introduce some industries to those villages, which is which is a friendly industry for the the environment, and this kind of things will help the populated areas and the villages, to have the jobs next to their houses, not far away. And this should be taken into consideration, and I believe the government is taking this into consideration, because once upon a time the village, say from 40 years or 30 years ago, the number of people in these villages was definitely maybe half of the population of today. This means, and the agriculture, which is that is the only thing which is the people are occupied with. Today there is mechanical equipment and things like this. That means that the number of people which they are involved in the agriculture has been decreased, and the population has been increased. That it means to stop as well the immigration from the village to the cities. This is one of the good reasons that if we can, get the jobs inside the village, the people will not immigrate to the cities. All of these things is a positive thing for the economy and positive things for the different things. That it means I ask, if we can do the agriculture and the cultivation, and besides this some friendly industries which can be introduced to the villages, like the small industries and medium-sized industries, and there is a lot of things which can be done, can be added, and definitely in the non-cultivated area. The area, we have to keep the areas which is for the agriculture. We have to not to touch it.
Not just as the population has increased throughout the years, as you've correctly said, sir, but also let's talk about the capabilities, the technological capabilities that are very different now. You've said that there's new techniques and equipments that are used for cultivation and agriculture materials, and the generations have also changed. I mean, the youth that are now growing, or the generation that came after this very long period, have very different mentalities, and maybe that's one of the reasons why they're shifting or migrating to cities, is because they are aiming and looking for a better living conditions. But with this happening, how are they going to adopt and adapt to the new boundaries or the new safe zone by going back again to the villages?
We have to look at the village as a small part of a city. We cannot neglect that there is a lot of things which is missing from the villages. That's why we have to introduce those things as much as possible to enable the people to stay in the village and to have a smooth life, and to have an easy life, and to have their means as well around them, not far away from them. These kind of things will help people to enjoy life and to stay in their villages.
But yes, now the project that the President has called on in this initiative is a 3-year period for a target of 4,500 villages. Now, we're not going to talk about the period in terms of how long it is, because it's definitely not. We do know that President Sisi is always keen on working very hard and fast along with his government to be more productive and developed in a very short time. But this period or duration of 3 years, does it have any specific economic indication from your perspective?
Our president, teach us that time is valuable, and he is working on time all the time. That it means that we have to go ahead and to work hard on a strategy which has to be 1, 2, 3, 4 in a certain time. And this is, I appreciate it very much, because if we are as nation consider time as an important issue, this will help us to develop ourselves in a quick way and in a better timing. That is why time is precious.
Definitely, sure. And let's also talk about the costs. 500 billion Egyptian pounds seems to be a striking number. Now, these villages do not have an exact estimate number of populated percentages, as they are different in terms of population and in terms of demands and what's required. But as a total number, do you think that this number is going to be indicated to be able to be divided into a certain priority list? And what do you think this priority list is from your perspective?
Looking at it as it is an investment. It is not a wasted money. It is an investment which has got a return in every sense of the word. The return will definitely come, and will multiply this 500 millions into big numbers. And we have to look at it as an investment. We shouldn't look at it as only development money. It is an investment.
Now, you mentioned something a couple of moments ago, and this is part of the new world order, in terms of the economic cycle and shift that the whole world is going through, and that is focusing on the micro, small, medium enterprises.
Right.
And that is a good chance to be able to work on that, as it will be somehow related to a positive indicator to this development process on an economic perspective here, speaking on Egypt's economy as a whole. So giving this chance to these individuals to go for micro and medium enterprises, what is that going to reflect?
We are giving these people as well chance to discover themselves, and the society will discover what is the potential of these people. This number, I don't know exactly how many people are in those villages, but let us assume there are certain number of the Egyptian population, and these people cannot be isolated from the society. It has to be in the society, and this way what is the president doing is getting them involved in the society in every sense of the word. Maybe we can get out of them talented people in certain areas and so on, and that's why I said it is a big investment, and it is an important investment, and it will have definitely a return on the society.
Speaking of society, and this is a good chance for me to ask you from a cultural perspective, the culture of people in villages is very much different than cities, and this happens anywhere around the world. Now, with keeping up with the modern world and the new face of Egypt and the development in terms of technology, and with these developments in terms of these kind of projects, how is that going to be able to shape the culture of people living in villages?
Of course, this definitely, when these people are improving their way of living, then they will be aware of a lot of things which they are not enjoying it. Newspaper, books, education, industry. This will improve their way of living. And they will have a return on the societies in return of. Definitely there is.
I mean, what are the main needs of the Egyptian people living in the countryside at the moment, from your perspective? I know that as part of you working very much closely with business, that you get to work so much with the labor force, and most of these labor force, if you really speak to them on a personal level, you would find them immigrating from countrysides and from villages to shift into something different. So you basically would give me just a couple of needs that these people are calling for.
The society needs a lot of improvement and lot of changes in their attitude and their way of everybody wants to go to the university to get a job. Everybody wants to be a doctor, engineer, and so on, but nobody wants to be a mechanic. Nobody wants to be technical side.
Schools, yes.
And all of this, because once upon a time Egypt was agriculture nation, and now we have to introduce the industry to our society because we are 100 million people. Once upon a time when we were 10 million and 15 million and 20 million, it can be contained, that is the people in the agriculture involved, and the economy can.
And even back then, a large millions of people, a large percentage of the Egyptian population were very much into the agriculture because it meant to them land and it meant to them ownership and so forth. If you'd allow us and excuse us to go over the phone, we also have another perspective and another debatable opinion and analysis concerning this issue. I'm joined over the phone by economic expert Mr. Raouf Ghaffar. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
If I'm correct, these development projects in the villages is going to be serving at least 60 million Egyptian people. That is how important these developments are at this stage. If I'm going to ask you to how you see this in terms of analysis and evaluation to the importance and the significance of the timing of this project and the planning of this project in terms of the phases and the duration of when it's going to be ending, as well as the budget or the costs that are allocated for it.
First of all, after we've been through the economic reforms and all the infrastructure projects that have been implemented over the last years, it was about time to look at the Egyptian citizen, Egyptian individual. Try and sort of higher up his standard of living, his lifestyle, by giving importance to all what matters to him. So, talking education, we're talking health, we are talking housing, etc. So this is a very important direction that had to be followed in order to make all the Egyptians feel that the outcome of all the reforms, etc., was directed to their well-being, to a better life for them. Then came the project for the development of villages. As we all know, a lot of people left the villages, left, I should say, rural areas to go into urban areas looking for a better life. Looking for jobs, etc. So if the government brings the jobs to them in their own habitat, then they should not be moving. And in the same time, it will, in general outlook, improve the environment of the different rural areas. And this is exactly what this project is directed to.
Yes.
First of all, to create jobs for them where they live through initiatives, financing, micro investments, micro loans, medium and small enterprises where they are. Try and build respectable and reasonable housing for them, creating a better community in the rural areas so that people will stay and will develop their own villages and own...
Yes, very well. Mr. Raouf Ghaffar, our economic expert, thank you very much for joining us on Cairo Local Time for this update. And we have a chance for one more question here before we end our episode, Engineer Riyadh. In 3 years' time, how do you see, with all the developments and the other projects that are being parallelly working on and going all the way from developing villages to the new administrative capital, where is Egypt going to be in 3 years' time?
Well, I believe, 3 years that it means we will start and it will carry on from now till the 3 years finished, and we will not stop because now we are putting things on the road now, to improve the whole thing and to have different, job and different vision, you know, and our look and then our strategy on the villages. That's why they are getting themselves involved in the country, in the whole of the strategy of the nation, you know, economically and in every sense of the word. You know, we are going to get involved. This big part of our brothers and sisters, we get them involved in the society, because I believe up till now they are not involved to that extent. That means this development, getting them involved in the society. We are adding now, you know, power to our economy and to our people, and you know, and definitely if we are 100 million people, we have to realize this 100 people in their output, in their way of living, in their, you know, in a lot of things. That's why we are getting, it's not a matter of developing this villages, we are getting them involved in the society more and more,
and getting out the best potentials,
of course, and
they have for them, so that they can have a better
and this is a
living
fantastic
conditions.
move. Is a great thing
Yes,
that we
thank
are,
you.
you know.
Thank you very much for
Thank
coming
you very
in.
much.
Engineer Samir Riyad, economic expert, thank you very much for coming in. Hello for
you.
time. Our time is unfortunately up for now, so thank you for watching. The top stories will be coming your way. Please stay tuned.